Now by Athena's side in the quiet hall, studying the ground for slaughter, Lord Odysseus turned to Telemachus. The arms, he said, harness and weapons must be out of sight, in the inner room, and if the suitors miss them, be mild. Just say, I had a mind to move them out of the smoke. They seemed no longer the bright arms that Odysseus left at home, when he went off to Troy. Here, where the fire's hot breath came, they had grown black and drear. One better reason struck me, too. Suppose a brawl starts up when you've been drinking. You might in madness let each other's blood. Then that would stain your feast, your courtship. Iron itself can draw men's hands. Then he fell silent, and Telemachus obeyed his father's word. He called to Euryclea, the nurse, and told her, Nurse, go shut the women in their quarters, while I shift father's armor back to the inner rooms. These beautiful arms unburnished, caked with black soot in his years abroad. I was a child then, well, I am not now. I want them shielded from the draught and smoke. And the old woman answered, It's time, child. You took an interest in such things. I wish you put your mind on all your house and chattels. But who will go along to hold the light? You send no maids, no torch-bearers. Telemachus looked at her and replied, Our friend here, a man who shares my meat and can bear a hand, no matter how far he is from home. He spoke so soldierly, even her own speech halted on her tongue. Straight back she went to lock the doors of the women's hall. And now the two men sprang to work, father and princely son, loaded with round helms and studded bucklers, lifting the long spears, while in the path, Pallas Athena held up a golden lamp of purest light. Telemachus at last burst out, Oh, father, here is a marvel. All around I see the walls and roof beams, pedestals and pillars, lighted as though by white fire blazing near. One of the gods of heaven is in this place. Then said Odysseus, the great tactician, Be still, keep still about it. Just remember it. The gods who rule Olympus make this light. You may go off to bed now. Here I stay to test your mother and her maids again. Out of her long grief she will question me. Telemachus went across the hall and out under the light of torches, crossed by courts to the tower chamber where he had always slept. Here now again he lay, waiting for dawn, while in the great hall by Athena's side, Odysseus waited with his mind on slaughter. Presently, Penelope from her chamber stepped in her thoughtful beauty. So might Artemis or golden Aphrodite have ascended, and her maids drew to the hearth her own smooth chair inlaid with silver whorls and ivory. The artisan Icmalius had made it, long before, with a footrest in a single piece, a soft upon the seat, a heavy fleece was thrown. Here by the fire the queen sat down. Her maids, leaving their quarters, came with white arms bare to clean the wine cups and the bread, and move the tessel boards where the men had lingered drinking. Fiery ashes out of the pine chip flares they tossed, and piled on fuel for night light and heat. And now a second time Melantho's voice rang brazen in Odysseus' ear. Ah, stranger, are you still here, so creepy late at night, hanging about, looking the women over? You old goat, go outside, cuddle your supper. Get out, or a torch may kindle you behind. At this, Odysseus glared under his brows and said, Little devil, why pitch into me again? Because I go unwashed and wear these rags and make the rounds? But so I must, being needy. This is the way a vagabond must live. And do not overlook this. In my time, I too had luck, lived well, stood well with men, and gave alms often to poor wanderers like him you see before you. Aye, all sorts, no matter in what dye or want. I own servants, many, I say, and all the rest that goes with what men call prosperity. But Zeus, the son of Cronos, brought me down. Mistress, mend your ways, or you may lose all this vivacity of yours. What if her ladyship were stirred to anger? What if Odysseus came? And I can tell you there is hope of that. Or if the man is done for, still his son lives to be reckoned with. Apollo's will. None of you can go wantoning into the sly and fool him now. He is too old for that. Penelope, being near enough to hear him, spoke out sharply to her maid. Oh, shameless, through and through. And do you think me blind to your conquest? It will cost your life. You knew I waited, for you heard me say it. Waited to see this man in my hall and question him about my lord. I'm so hard beset. She turned away and said to the housekeeper, "Your own me, a bench, a spread of sheepskin, to put my guest at ease. Now he shall talk and listen and be questioned." Ooh. Willing hands brought a smooth bench and dropped the fleece upon it. Here the adventurer and king sat down. Then carefully Penelope began. "Friend, let me ask you, first of all, who are you? Where do you come from? Of what nation and parents were you born?" And he replied, "My lady, never a man in the wide world should have a fault to find with you. Your name has gone out under heaven like sweet honor of some God-fearing king, who rules both wheat and barley, fruit trees laden bright, new lambs at lambing time, and the deep sea gives hauls of fish by his good strategy, so that his folk are fare well. Oh, my dear lady, this being so, let it suffice to ask me of other matters, not my blood, my homeland. Do not enforce me to recall my pain. My heart is sore, but I must not be found sitting in tears here, in another's house. It is not well forever to be grieving. One of the maids might say, or you might think, I had gone maudlin over cups of wine. And Penelope replied, "Stranger, my looks, my face, my carriage were soon lost or faded when the Achaeans crossed the sea to Troy. Odysseus, my lord, among the rest, if he returned, if he were here to care for me, I might be happily renowned. But grief instead heaven sent me, years of pain, sons of the noblest family on the island, Dulichian, Sami, wooded Zakynthos, with native Achaeans, Ithacans, are here to court me against my wish, and they consume this house. Can I give proper heed to guest or suppliant, or herald on the realm's affairs? How could I, wasted with longing for Odysseus, while here they press for marriage? Ruse served my turn to draw the time out. First a close-grained web, I had the happy thought to set up weaving on my big loom in hall. I said that day, young men, my suitors, now my lord is dead. Let me finish my weaving before I marry, or else my thread will have been spun in vain. And as a shroud I weave for Lord Laertes, when cold death comes to lay him on his bier. The country wives hold me in dishonor, if he, with all his fortune, lay unshrouded. I reached their hearts that way, and they agreed. So every day I wove on the great loom, but every night by torchlight I unwove it. And so for 3 years I deceived the Achaeans. But when the seasons brought a 4th year on, as long months waned, and the long days were spent, through impudent folly and the slinking maids, they caught me, clambered up to me at night. I had no choice then but to finish it. And now, as matters stand at last, I have no strength left to evade a marriage. Cannot find any further away. My parents urge it upon me. And my son will not stand by while they eat up his property. He comprehends it, being a man full grown, be able to oversee the kind of house Zeus will endow with honor. But you two confide in me. Tell me your ancestry. You were not born of mythic oak or stone. And the great master of invention answered, "No honorable wife of Lord Odysseus, must you go on asking about my family? Then I will tell you, though my pain be doubled by it. And whose pain would not if he had been long away as long as I have, and had hard roving in the world of men. But I will tell you even so, my lady. One of the great islands of the Lord in the mid-sea, in the wine-dark sea, is Crete, spacious and rich and populous, with 90 cities and a mingling of tongues. Achaeans there are found, along with Cretan hillmen of the old stock, and Kydonians, Dorians, and 3 bloodlines, Pelasgians, and one among their 90 towns is Snosus. Here lived King Minos, whom great Zeus received every 9th year in private council. Minos, the father of my father, Deucalion, 2 sons of Deucalion had. Odymanus, who went to join Adrate before Troy in the beaked ships of war, and then myself, Ithone by name, a stripling next to my brother. But I saw him with my own eyes at Knossos, once Odysseus. Gales had caught him off Cape Malea, driven him southward on the coast of Crete, when he was bound for Troy. At Amnisos, hard by the holy cave of Elethioia, and rough roadstead, riding out the blow. Meanwhile, he came inland, asking after Odymanus. Dear friends, he said they were, but now 10 mornings had already passed, 10 or 11 since my brother sailed. So I played host and took Odysseus home. I saw him well lodged and fed, for we had plenty. Then I made requisitions, barley, wine, and beeves for sacrifice, to give his company abundant fare along with him. 12 days they stayed with us, the Achaeans, while that wind out the north shut everyone inside. Even on land you cannot keep your feet. Its fury was abroad. On the 13th, when the gale dropped, they put to sea. Okay, summary so far. Odysseus, disguised as a beggar, he's like, blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you about my homeland. Basically, a maid insults him, and he's like, but I am a beggar. And basically, you should not be so happy because Telemachus may just kill you, or maybe Odysseus would come back. Who knows? And then Penelope comes in and she's like, it's this guy. He knows about my husband. Well, there's these suitors. I've been tricking them. It's basically a summary of everything you know about the suitors for the 5th time. And then Odysseus is like, yeah. Well, since you want to know about my life and what I'm doing, he lived in Crete, and he was with the Achaeans, and then he met Odysseus, and then Odysseus, he hosted Odysseus, and then opted to take him home. I guess. I don't think it's actually his home of Ithaca. It's a temporary home, probably. And he stayed there 12 days. And then on the 13th day, he was put to sea. Now, all these lies he made, so basically, Penelope tells about the suitors and how she's mad. Odysseus tells about his life story. And a maid originally insulted Odysseus, or the beggar Odysseus, to bring this forward. Now, all these lies he made appear so truthful that she wept as she sat listening. The skin of her pale face grew moist, the way pure snow softens and glistens on the mountains, thawed by south wind after powdering from the west. And as the snow melts, mountain streams run full. That's unnecessarily verbose. So her white cheeks were wetted by these tears, shed for her lord, and he close by her side. Imagine how his heart ached for his lady, his wife in tears, and yet he never blinked. His eyes might have made of horn or iron for all that she could see. He had this trick, wept if he willed to, inwardly. Well then, as soon as her relieving tears were shed, she spoke once more. I think that I shall say, friend, give me some proof, if it is really true that you were host in that place of my husband, with his brave men, as you declare. Come, tell me the quality of his clothing, how he looked, and some particular of his company. Odysseus answered, and his mind ranged far. Lady, so long a time now lies between, it is hard to speak of it. Here is the 20th year since that man left the island of my father. But I shall tell what memory recalls to mind. A purple cloak, and fleecy, he had on, a double thick one. Then he wore a brooch made of pure gold, with twin tubes for the prongs, and on the face a work of art, a hunting dog, pinning a spotted fawn in agony between his forepaws. Wonderful to see, how being gold and nothing more, he bit the golden deer convulsed, with wild hooves flying. Odysseus' shirt, I noticed, too, a fine close-fitting tunic, like dry onion skin. So soft it was, and shiny. Women there, many of them, would cast their eyes on it. But I might add, for your consideration, whether he brought these things from home, or whether a shipmate gave them to him. Coming aboard. I have no motion, some regardful host in another port perhaps it was. Affection followed him. There were few Achaeans like him, and I too made him gifts. A good bronze blade, a cloak with lining and a broidered shirt, and sent him off in his trim ship with honor, a herald somewhat older than himself. He kept beside him. I'll describe this man, round-shouldered, dusky, woolly-headed, Eurybates, his name was, and Odysseus gave him preferment over the officers. He had a shrewd head, like the captain's own. Now, hearing these details, minutely true, she felt more strangely moved, and tears flowing until she had tasted her salt grief again. Then she found words to answer. Before this, you won my sympathy, but now indeed you shall be our respected guest and friend. With my own hands, I put that that cloak and tunic upon him, took them folded from their place, and the bright brooch for ornament. Gone now, I will not meet the man again, returning to his own home fields. Unkind that fate was sent to him, young in the long ship, to see that misery at Ilion, unspeakable. And the master improvisers answered, Honorable wife of Odysseus Laertiades, you need not stain your beauty with these tears, nor wear yourself out grieving for your husband. Not that I can blame you. Any wife grieves for the man she married in her girlhood, lay with in love, bore children to, though he may be no prince like this Odysseus, whom they compare even to the gods. But listen, weep no more, and listen. I have a thing to tell you, something true. I heard but lately of your lord's return, heard that he is alive, not far away, among the Thesprotians in the green land, amassing fortune to bring home. His company went down in shipwreck, the wine-dark sea, off the coast of Thrinacia. Zeus and Helios held it against him that his men had killed the kine of Helios. The crew drowned for this. He rode the ship's keel. Big seas cast him up on the island of the Phaeacians, godlike men who took him to their hearts. They honored him with many gifts and a safe passage home, or so they wished. Long since he should have been there. But he thought better to restore his fortune, playing vagabond about the world, and no adventurer could beat Odysseus at living by his wits. No man alive. I had this from King Phaedon of Thesprotia. And, tipping wine out, Phaedon swore to me the ship was launched, the seamen standing by to bring Odysseus to his land at last. But I got out to sea ahead of him, by the king's order, as it chanced a freighter left port for the grain bins of Dolichon. Phaedon, however, showed me Odysseus' treasure. 10 generations of his heirs or more could live on what lay piled in that great room. The man himself had gone up to Dodona to ask the spelling leaves of the old oak what Odysseus would have him do, how to return to Ithaca after so many years, by stealth or openly. You see, then, he is alive and well, headed homeward now, no more to be abroad far from his island, his dear wife and son. Here is my sworn word for it. Witness this, god of the zenith, noblest of the gods, and Lord Odysseus' hearthfire. Now before me, I swear these things shall turn out as I say. Between this present dark and one day's ebb, after the wane, before the crescent moon, Odysseus will come. Penelope, the attentive queen, replied to him, Ah, stranger, if what you say could ever happen, you would soon know our love, our bounty too. Men would turn after you to call you blessed. But my heart tells me what must be. Odysseus will not come to me. No ship will be prepared for you. We have no master quick to receive and furnish out a guest as Lord Odysseus was. Or did I dream him? Maids, come wash him, make a bed for him, bedstead and colored rugs and coverlets, to let him lie warm into the gold of dawn. In morning light you'll bathe him and anoint him, so that he'll take his place beside Telemachus, feasting in hall. If there be one man there to bully or annoy him, that man wins no further triumph here, burn though he may. How will you underestimate me, friend? How find in me, more than in common women, any courage or gentleness? If you are kept in rags and filthy at our feast, men's lives are short. The hard man and his cruelties will be cursed behind his back and mocked in death. But one whose hearts and ways are kind, of him stranger will bear report to the wide world, and distant men will praise him. Warily, Odysseus answered, Honorable lady, the wife of Odysseus Laertides, a weight of rugs and cover? Not for me. I've had none since the day I saw the mountains of Crete, white with snow, low on the sea line, fading behind me as the long oars drove me north. Let me lie down tonight as I've lain often, many a night unsleeping, many a time afield on hard ground waiting for pure dawn. No, and I have no longing for a foot bath either. None of these maids will touch my feet, unless there is an old one, old and wise, one who has lived through suffering as I have. I would not mind letting my feet be touched by that old servant. It's so stupid. Why do you care about how old they are? And Penelope said, Dear guest, no foreign man so sympathetic ever came to my house. No guest more likable. So wry and humble are the things you say. I have an old maidservant ripe with years, one who in her time nursed my lord. She took him into her arms the hour his mother bore him. Let her then wash her feet, though she is frail. Come here, stand by me, faithful Euryclea, and bathe your master. I almost said, for they are of an age, and now Odysseus's feet and hands would be and seemed like his. Men grow old soon in hardship. Hearing this, the old nurse hid her face between her hands and wept hot tears and murmured, Oh, my child, I can do nothing for you. How Zeus hated you. No other man so much. No use, great heart, oh faithful heart. The rich thigh bones you burnt to Zeus who blazed in lightning. No man ever came more to Zeus with all your prayers for a green hedge, tall son of reared manhood. There's no day of homecoming for you, stranger. Some women in some far place perhaps have mocked my lord when he'd be home, as now these strumpets mock you here. No wonder you would keep clear of all their harshness and have no bath. But here I am. The Queen Penelope, Darius' daughter, bids me, so let me bathe your feet. Serve my lady. Serve you too. My heart within me stirs. Something, mindful of something. Listen to what I say. Strangers have come here, many through the years, but no one ever came. I swear it seems so like Odysseus. Body, voice, and limbs as you do. Ready for this? Odysseus answered. Oh, God. Old woman, that is what they say. All who have seen the two of us remark how like we are, as you yourself have said, and rightly too. Then he kept still, while the old nurse filled up her basin, glittering in the firelight. She poured cold water in, then hot. But Lord Odysseus rolled suddenly from the fire to face the dark. The scar, he had forgotten that. She must not handle his scarred thigh, or the game was up. But when she bared her lord's leg, bending near, she knew the grove at once. An old wound a boar's white tusk inflicted on Parnassus years ago. He had gone hunting there in company with his uncles and Autolycus, his mother's father, a great thief and swindler, by Hermes' favor. For Autolycus pleased him with burnt offerings of sheep and kids. What? What? He had gone hunting there in company, a great thief and swindler. For Autolycus pleased him with burnt offerings of sheep and kids. And kids? And kids? Human kids? The god acted as his accomplice. Well, Autolycus, on a trip to Ithaca, arrived just after his daughter's boy was born. In fact, he had no sooner finished supper than Nurse Eurycleia put the baby down in his own lap and said, "It is for you now to choose a name for him, your child's dear baby, the answer to her prayers." Autolycus replied, "My son-in-law, my daughter, call the boy by the name I tell you. Well, you know, my hand has been against the world of men and women. Odium and distrust I've won. Odysseus should be his given name. When he grows up, when he comes visiting his mother's home under Parnassus, where my treasures are, I'll make him gifts and send him back rejoicing." Odysseus, in due course, went for the gifts and old Autolycus and his sons embraced him with welcoming sweet words. And Amphithe, his mother's mother, held him tight and kissed his head and his fine eyes. The father called on his noble sons to make the feast. And going about it briskly, they led in an ox of 5 years, whom they killed and flayed and cut in bits for roasting on the skewers, with skilled hands, with care, then shared it out. So all the day until the sun went down, they feasted to their heart's content. At evening, after the sun was down and dusk had come, they turned to bed and took the gift of sleep. When the young dawn spread in the eastern sky, her fingertips arose, the men and dogs went hunting, taking Odysseus. They climbed Parnassus's rugged flank, mantled in forest, entering amid high windy folds at noon, when Helios beat upon the valley door, and on the valley floor, and on the winding ocean whence he came. With hounds questing ahead, in open order, the sons of Autolycus went down in a glen, Odysseus in the lead, behind the dogs, pointing his long shadowing spear. Before them, a great boar lay hid in the... Oh my god. Okay, there's not that much left. I'm glad there's not that much left. Before them, a great boar lay hid in the undergrowth, and a green thicket, proof against the wind or sun's blaze. Fine soever the needling sunlight, impervious too to any rain, so dense that cover was, heaped up with fallen leaves. Patter of men's feet, woke the boar as they came up, and from his woody ambush, with razor back bristling and raging eyes, he trotted and stood at bay. Odysseus, being on top of him, had the first shot, lunging to stick him, but the boar had already charged under the long spear. He took a slant with one white tusk, and ripped out flesh above the knee, but missed the bone. Odysseus' second thrust went home by luck, his right spear passing through the shoulder joint, and the beast fell, moaning as life pulsed away. Autolycus's tall sons took up the wounded, working skillfully over the Prince Odysseus to find his gash, and with a broom they snatched the dark flow of blood. Then downhill swiftly they all repaired to the father's house. And there tended him well, so well they soon could send him with grandfather Autolycus's magnificent gifts, rejoicing over sea to Ithaca. His father and the lady Anticlea welcomed him, and wanted all the news of how he got his wound. So he spun out his tale, recalling how the boar's white tusk caught him when he was hunting on Parnassus. Okay, what's going on here? You might ask. Oh god. Okay. So Penelope was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you know Odysseus. Oh, well, wait, how do I know that you actually did know Odysseus?" And so what did he wear? And he's like, "Oh, he wore a purple cloak. I gave him some stuff." And Penelope's like, "Oh, you really did know Odysseus. You shall be treated like royalty. I shall give you a bath for your footsies. You are a great man." And then Odysseus is like, "Just so you know, Odysseus probably returning soon. I heard a rumor. Someone told me, a little bird told me that Odysseus is coming back soon." So I mean, like, I don't know. And then Penelope's like, if only that was true. "Maids, come over here and wash his feet." And he's like, "No, I don't want my feet washed. I want an old servant to wash my feet, not any young servants." I don't know why. it had to be an old servant. I have absolutely no clue why he has a preference over the age of the servants. It's so stupid. His entire book. And then the maid, she's washing his feet, and she's like, "Oh my god." And she finds a scar, and then they describe how he got the scar, which is that he went out somewhere, and then a boar came out of nowhere and like stabbed him in the leg. I don't know why they spent so long on it. This was the scar the old nurse recognized. She traced it under her spread hands, then let go, and into the basin fell the lowered leg, making the bronze clang, sloshing the water out. Then joy and anguish seized her heart. Her eyes filled up with tears, her throat closed, and she whispered, with hand held out to touch his chin, "Oh yes, you are Odysseus! Ah, dear child, I could not see you until now, not until I knew my master's very body with my hands." Her eyes turned to Penelope, with desire to make her lord, her husband, known, in vain, because Athena had bemused the queen, so that she took no notice, paid no heed. At the same time, Odysseus's right hand gripped the old throat, his left hand pulled her near, and in her head he said, "Will you destroy me, nurse, who gave me milk at your own breasts? Now with a hard lifetime behind, I've come in the 20th year." I'm sorry, that's just really weird. Like, this is like not even your own kid, and you breastfed them, and now they're an adult and they're talking to you. I don't know, something's weird about that to me. Mainly because I've never breastfed someone, so I don't understand what sort of attachment comes with breastfeeding a child. But I'd imagine that it's weird seeing a kid grow up like that. I don't know. I don't know. It just seems a little weird. Now with a hard lifetime behind, I've come in the 20th year home to my father's island. You found me out, as the chance was given you. Be quiet. Keep it from the others, else I warn you. And I mean it, too. If by my hand God brings the suitors down, I'll kill you, nurse or not, when the time comes. When the time comes to kill other women. Euryclea kept her wits and answered him, "Oh, what mad words are these you let escape you? Child, you know my blood, my bones are yours. No one could whip this out of me. I'll be a woman turned to stone, iron I'll be. And let me tell you too, mind now, if God cuts down the arrogant suitors by your hand, I can report you on all the maids, those who dishonor you, and the innocent." But in response, the great tactician said, "Nurse, no need to tell me tales of these. I will have seen them, each one for myself. Trust in gods. Be quiet, hold your peace." Silent, the old nurse went to fetch more water. When she had washed and rubbed his feet with golden oil, he turned, dragging his bench again to the fireside for warmth, and hid the scar under his rags. Penelope broke the silence, saying, "Friend, allow me one brief question more. You know, the time for bed, sweet rest is coming soon. If only that warm luxury of slumber would come to enfold us in our trouble. But for me, my fate at night is anguish and no rest. By day being busy, seeing to my work, and I find relief sometimes from loss and sorrow. But when night comes and all the world's abed, I lie in mine alone, my heart thudding, while bitter thoughts and fears crowd on my grief. Think now, Pandareos' daughter, pale forever, sings as the nightingale in the new leaves, through those long quiet hours of night, on some thick flowering orchard, bow in spring. How she rills out and tilts her note, high now low, mourning for her Tylos, whom she killed in madness, her child, and her lord Zethos' only child. My forlorn thought flows variable as her song. Wandering, shall I stay beside my... wandering. Wondering. Shall I stay beside my son and guard my own things here? My maids, my hall, to honor my lord's bed in the common talk? Or had I best join fortunes with a suitor, the noblest one, most lavish in his gifts? Is it now time for that? My son, being still a Callaway boy, forbade marriage or absence from my lord's domain. But now the child is grown up, a man, aghast, all the suitors gorge on. Listen, interpret to me this dream. From water's edge, 20 fat geese have come to feed on grain beside my house, and I delight to see them. But now a mountain eagle with great wings and a crooked beak storms in to break their necks and strew their bodies here. Away he soars into the bright sky, and I cry aloud, all this in dream. I wail, and round me gather softly braided Achaean women, mourning because the eagle killed my geese. Then down out of the sky he drops a cornice beam, with mortal voice telling me not to weep. Be glad, he says, renowned Icarius' daughter. Here is no dream, but something real as day, something about to happen. All those geese were suitors, and the bird was I. See now, I am no eagle, but your lord come back, to bring inglorious death upon them all. As he said this, my honeyed slumber left me. Peering through my half-shut eye, I saw the geese in the hall, still feeding at the self-same trough. The master of subtle ways and straight replied, My dear, how can you choose to read the dream differently? Has not Odysseus himself shown you what is to come? Death to the suitors, sure death too. Not one escapes his doom. Penelope shook her head and answered, Friend, many and many a dream is mere confusion, a cobweb of no consequence at all. 2 gates for ghostly dreams there are, one gateway of honest horn, and one of ivory. Issuing by the ivory gates are dreams of glimmering illusions and fantasies, but those that come through solid, polished horn may be borne out, if mortals only know them. I doubt it came by horn, my fearful dream, too good to be true, that, for my son and me. But one thing more I wish to tell you. Listen carefully. It is a black day. This that comes. Odysseus' house and I are to be parted. I shall decree a contest for the day. We have 12 axe heads. In his time, my lord could line them up, all 12, at intervals like a ship's rigging. Then he'd back away a long way off and whip an arrow through. Now I'll impose this trial on the suitors. The one who easily handles the string and bows and shoots through all 12 axes I shall marry, whoever he may be. Then he'll look my last on this my first love's beautiful brimming house. But I'll remember, though I dream it only. Odysseus said, Dear honorable lady, wife of Odysseus Laertiades, let there be no postponement of the trial. Odysseus, who knows the shifts of combat, will be here. He'll be here long before one of these lads can stretch or string that bow or shoot to thread the iron. Grave and wise Penelope replied, If you were willing to sit with me and comfort me, my friend, no tide of sleep would ever close my eyes. But mortals cannot go forever sleepless. This is the undying God's decree for all who live and die on earth. Kind furrowed earth. Upstairs I go, then, to my single bed, my sighing bed, wet with so many tears after my lord Odysseus took ship. To see that misery at Ilion, unspeakable. Let me rest there. You here. You can stretch out on the bare floor, or else command a bed. She went up to her chamber, softly lit, accompanied by her maids. Once there, she wept for Odysseus, her husband, till Athena cast sweet sleep upon her eyes. Oh my God, every single chapter, nothing happens. They just keep talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. Just keep going, and they don't know. Homer doesn't know how to keep readers interested. So what's going on here? Odysseus, a maid insults Odysseus in his beggar form, and he's like, but you better be careful because Odysseus may come back and kill you all. And then Penelope hears that, and she's like, you must know about my husband. Can you tell? They're suitors. They're eating all our food and they're doing all this. And I did this thing with some threading or whatever, and I kept on weaving it. Casual stuff. Where are you from? And he's like, okay, I'll tell you about Odysseus. Basically, I saw Odysseus in Phoenicia, and I basically hosted him. And after 13 days, we sent him on the sea to go home, I think. And then Penelope's like, I don't believe that. Even though she was like crying because of it. She's like, how can you prove it? Tell me what he was wearing. And he's like, it was purple robe. And she was like, oh my god, it actually is. You shall be treated as royalty. Come, lay in our beds and get your feet washed. And he's like, nah, it's not a good idea. I don't want to do that. Can you just get like an old servant? An old servant. Can you just get an old servant to wash my feet? It's only an old servant. I can't do young servants. She's like, okay, here, take this servant who knows you very well and has cared for you your entire life and could possibly give away your identity. And then she gives away his identity because of a scar he got from a hog or a pig. And just stabbed him in the leg with his husk. And she's like, oh my god, it's Odysseus. And Odysseus is like, hey, shut up. I don't want people to know. And Penelope's like, you're such a good guy. I really like you. But, like, I can't take these suitors anymore. Telemachus should do some stuff about it. And Odysseus is like, oh, Odysseus will come back. And she's like, no, he won't. You're lying. And then they go to bed. And Penelope was crying. All right, that's it.